And welcome back to the live stream. Today I thought I would talk to you a little bit about what to do if you're coming back from a break. I had to take a day off yesterday for travel. Normally I don't need to do that. I really try not to need a day off, first of all, because I'm overplaying or because I'm bad at scheduling. But I also I try not to take a day off even just for a holiday or whatever, because there's always, 30 minutes or an hour. But I did yesterday. I had a long day of travel, and as a result, I had to take the day off. I could have played maybe a little bit when I got home, but I was so exhausted that I didn't think anything good would come out of it, and it's good to know your limitations that way. So we're also trying our new setup here. Hopefully this audio and visual both sync up and also look good, because we can't do it the old way anymore, so we're doing it this way. But anyway, this is going to be some things to keep in mind when you're getting back on the horn. Maybe you're in between semesters and like one of my students right now, and you are trying to get back in shape for the next semester. And the first thing is going to be, don't overdo it. As a matter of fact, right now, I want you to pause this video and go write down 5 to 10 other things that you need to do today, right? So that could be vacuuming, laundry, things like that, clean the dishes, whatever. It could be that you need to call someone, a friend of yours, or just catch up with somebody. Maybe you're back in town where you grew up and you want to connect with some people. Maybe it's just read a book. It can be anything, right? But stop the video right now and write down 5 to 10 other things that you need to do, and I'll wait. Okay, now that you've done that, you're going to use those things because you don't want to just play trumpet and try to get back in shape for the next, I don't know, probably 20 minutes if you haven't played in a couple of days, right? What we normally do is we just say, okay, here I go. And we grab our trumpet and we start trying to play, and the result is pretty bad, and so then we try to force it to be good, and that's not a good beginning to the rest of your playing in the future, right? So we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to do small bursts of things, and that's what we're going to do today. Like I said, I haven't played a note yet. I did actually buzz this mouthpiece for a second right before the video just to make sure that things were maybe going to work. But we'll do it together, right? So, okay, what do we need to keep in mind besides that we're only going to do small bursts of things and then go off and do these other things that we've written a list about? Well, I like to use a timer because I like to know approximately how long I'm doing things, but even at first that's not really necessary. Just do it as long as you feel comfortable, and then go do something else until you feel rested, right? That's the basics of it. If you want to write down those times, that's great. But, okay, so then what's the next step? What do we actually need to do to get back in shape? Well, we need to remember how it works. If you're somebody who's played by feel most of the time and you practice every day, and especially if you're in school and you're doing a daily warm-up and you're in a lot of rehearsals, well, then you're used to just being able to pick up the horn and play it. And that's probably not going to work for you as well as it should right now. And so we need to go back to basics. How does this thing operate, right? So we're going to start with breathing. How does breathing work? Well, we breathe in and then we breathe out. It's very simple. But we need to make sure that that's an immediate event, right? So you can breathe with me if you'd like. I like to do sort of like 2 in and then just out. And I also want to make sure that I'm breathing fully, but not so full that I'm like kind of coughing, right? And I also need to make sure that I'm blowing the air out forcefully, but not in a sort of electricity kind of like, huh. I don't want to feel like I'm jolting at the turnaround, right? So it's just very natural. So first, just take a breath in and out without thinking about trumpet, right? Just, and you'll notice that at the top, just for a split second, it does pause. We want to eliminate that, and the way we're going to do that is we're not going to quite get all the way to the top. And we're going to breathe against support. So if you think about your support for a second, then you're just going to breathe in and right back out, right? So, and I'm using my arm as a sort of physical representation of how I'm breathing. So I'll use my other arm this time. Here we go. And I also like to sometimes like move my body back and then forward as I blow, just to make sure that that's absolutely perfectly instantaneous, right? So we call this the perfect turnaround. The air is turning around, right? So you might have to just try this a couple of times, but that's really important. If we can get that down, we're in really good shape. Because the next step is that, well, I need a ready embouchure. In other words, something that can actually work in the trumpet, in the mouthpiece. And so, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start to ready my embouchure as it gets close to the top of the breath, which will affect how I can intake the air. And this is where it gets a little controversial in terms of my production. I don't think you should breathe more and more towards the top of your breath. I think it should be less and less because your embouchure is getting more and more ready. So if you need to, grab your mouthpiece. Oh, that's not, well, this one will work, I guess. And put it on there, right? That's where you need to get to by the end of your breath. So if I go, and try to force it together, that's not going to be, first of all, I'm going to have to spend some time holding my breath and getting my embouchure set. I don't want that. But secondly, it's going to be inaccurate. I'm doing too much too fast. So what we want is to get close, this is my real mouthpiece, to get close to the embouchure that we actually know will work. And we can sort of just cheat here, all right? Just get something going here. Let me shut this off so I don't have the shadow all the time. It didn't help, did it? It's this one. Well, anyway. And then I have to get to there at the top of my breath. So let's practice that away from the mouthpiece. So I'm just going to go, right? It doesn't have to be all the way closed, but if you want it to be, if you want to do a poo attack, right, then we're just going to bring our lips together at the turnaround. So, right? And it's not going to be exactly the same as when I do this. But again, we're doing things that are not trumpet playing that are related to the production of trumpet playing so that when we do it, we have the best shot of it being really the best and most optimal and most efficient. And we'll get to the other parts, right? But I can do this for a long time before I play, and that might really help my playing go well right away. And that's something that I think most people want. So now I might try to do some buzzing here, but there are some other things that I want to do first. So let's just try to get this so that I feel like I'm ready to buzz right at the top of my turnaround and I don't hold my breath in order to get it, right? So we're still practicing breathing. Here we go. And we can even get a little bit of a free buzzing going if we want. See, that one was kind of like in between ready and not ready, so it bobbled on me, but that's good. That's fine. When I put the mouthpiece on there, it'll help sort of quash that, but it'll also, I can get closer than that, right? So let's try again. And you'll notice sometimes I'm not getting it perfect. I hold my breath for a second to try to get my arms. That's what we're working on, right? I don't have to be perfect. I just need to keep working on it until it feels natural to be very near perfect. So, a couple more times. That one felt really good. Let's do that again. Yeah, no holding my breath, and now I'm turning around the air. It was a tongue position thing that I needed to get, that I was kind of like holding my breath to try to get around. Okay, so you just do that until you need to, until it feels natural, and you don't have to free buzz necessarily. You can mouthpiece buzz. But now I brought a tool that I hopefully we can see, and this is my gauge, and my gauge tells me how fast my air goes, and this is a really critical part that most people really kind of get wrong. And so I don't know if you'll be able to read the numbers on the gauge, but you'll certainly be able to see the gauge itself, right? Yeah, there it is. And so I'm going to play this gauge. You don't buzz into it. We're using the mouthpiece as a sort of prophylactic so that if other people use it, my lips aren't all over this tube, right? Because I only have one of these. But it's very easy to make this at the hardware store. You get a gauge, what is this called? Ball stopper, whatever that is. And you attach it to a Y joint, or T joint rather. I'm getting all the names messed up. And then this is a pressure gauge in ounces per square inch. And then I just make the ball tight enough so that it feels like the trumpet, right? Or more or less, depending on what I want. So I actually do a little less. There we go. So now watch this, And I won't be able to see it, so we'll see how bad I do when I look at it later. But basically, you want it to go straight to the number you want. So let's say I want 7. So that was more like 8 or 9, but you want to hold it there. See, that was very poor because I sort of snuck my way into 7. So let's see if we can get that on the money. And you'd be surprised how hard it is to hold this right on a number. And that's because we're used to sort of being lazy with our support. We sort of relax as we get rid of air, and it just kind of, oh, that feels nice. Well, that means that your lips are doing more and more work because your air's not staying steady. So this helps you do that. Very important. And also the turnaround. A lot of times we do the turnaround like this. We go and sort of sneak into it. That's not a good idea either, because then your lips are doing varying amounts of work. You get really inconsistent response results. So having gauge air, I call it, is a really important part of the process of great production. Okay, so there we go, great gauge air, and we want to couple that with our readied embouchure, right? So this is why we said we didn't want electricity on the turnaround, because, well, if I put too much electricity in it, I get these spikes. I put my lips on the thing. Anyway, I get these spikes that then come back, and that causes even more problems, right? So I want just steady turnaround that has a readied embouchure, and then I should get a very good result. And then we have to manage that result, right? So now we should play trumpet, right? Eventually we got to play trumpet. And we might have been doing these things for, I don't know, about 12 minutes now. But most people are a little less patient than that, and they want to play trumpet right now and see how bad it's going to be if they've taken maybe 2 or 3 days off, right? So I'm going to play trumpet right now. I'm going to turn this down a little bit so that you can see that, right? This angle is a little bit closer than it should be in the new format, so I'm going to have to figure that out. But anyway, right now we're just nice and cozy. And I'm going to breath attack, right? Because that's all I've practiced. I don't want to tongue notes out. And all I'm going to do is exactly what I practiced. And I'm going to see both what result I get and what note comes out, right? I don't want to tell it to be a G or a C or an E or a B or whatever. I just want to blow into the trumpet and see what comes out. And then almost immediately, I'm going to need to make sure that I have a sound that I want, right? So I don't have to get it right away, but I need to be working towards it. And if I get really a terrible sound, I might have to live with that today and get a better and better sound over the course of several days. But hopefully, if I'm doing these production things well, the only thing left is that my lips need to vibrate, and they need to feel like they can do that well, and then for a long time. So since we haven't played any trumpet yet, I haven't needed to go do any of my other tasks. And in fact, I'm not going to do that on the video, but I'll leave you at the end of the first one and just talk a little bit after, so that you can do these things throughout the day. But when you start playing trumpet, you need to go take breaks frequently and then come back. And the idea is that if I can make this production into a really beautiful note, then I want to sort of stop after I've gotten that a few times, go do something else, and then come back and do that again, maybe the whole process again, so that I'm basically teaching myself, when I pick up the trumpet, I know I can make a beautiful sound come out right away. And that's going to fast track all of the rest of my progress getting back in shape. Okay, so let's see what note comes out. We're going to do all the things. So what are those things? Instant turnaround, a readied embouchure with, and the turnaround needs to have gauge air. So I'm going for something like a 5 or a 7 right away. I don't want to sneak into it, and I don't want to jolt into it either. I just want to get exactly to the spot that I want. And then I'm going to hold that number for the entire duration of the note. So in other words, exponentially support more and more so that I'm keeping that air flowing the same. Okay? Here we go. So we got our result. Now I'm going to try to move that result around a little bit. That was a D sharp for us. So I'm going to try to move that down to a B and just play it a little longer. Good. And you might find that you can't play as long as normally when you're getting back. Because you're out of shape. But also, even just blowing, you'll feel like you run out of air too fast. Yeah, that's because we're usually very efficient if we play a lot because we have to be. But when you don't play for a few days, well, you forget how to do that. But you'll remember again. Don't worry about that part, right? Just see how long you can play with a nice sound. And if it wiggles a little bit, you know that your muscles are just getting back used to being strong and having stamina. And so the first thing I want to work my way up to is a set of long tones. And so I'm not going to do that for you right now, but what we just did was one long tone at a time. And I want to work my way up to being able to do all my long tones with just a few beats of rest in between. And that, for me, that's like B down to low F sharp, and it takes about 6 to 10 minutes. So that would be a really great place to start. And if I can't do that yet, I don't want to be doing a lot of other things. There are some other things we can do, but that's the number one thing to work on. So maybe if you're working alongside this video, do as many long tones as you can right now, but just stop when you get tired. Don't go into tired too far. Just stop when you start feeling fatigue, and then go do something else and then come back, okay? So, okay, now, we know how to do long tones, so we're not going to do that right now, but we are going to want to move around the horn a little bit, right? I don't want to get stuck kind of playing just long tones. Even if I sound really good, we need some flexibility because we have to start building that back as well. And eventually I want to build into range, but I'm only going to focus on long tones and simple flexibility for today, for the first few days, really. Now, I only took one day off, and so I can probably do my full routine today, and that's what I'm going to do when I turn the camera off. But I'm going to take it slower than normal and in pieces, smaller pieces than normal, and I'm going to accept a slightly lesser result as long as I don't have to do that for too many days in a row, right? So what are we going to do? Well, I just like my good old number one violin, and we're going to do that, but we want to think about some other things as well, right? So there's two more things we're going to add to this. One is, well, we're going to tongue in there, so I want to make sure my tongue is not explosive, but just as little as possible so that I don't really even feel it on my lips at all. And I want to have even pressure throughout the ranges. And even though we're not going to go for a very large range, I don't want to be manipulating my trumpet angle or my pressure in any way. I just want to feel even. Now, pressure is okay, but I want to feel that pressure evenly against both top and bottom lip or side to side. However you think of it, it needs to be even, right? So those are the two things. We're going to tongue very lightly, and we're going to try to keep even pressure, and we're just going to do a violin or two here. And I do a little scale there at the end just to try to tie it all together and feel progressively if I'm doing anything weird. So that's all I'm going to do for now. Now, if you feel like your tonguing is getting in the way, then I might do just a little bit of kind of ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, some kind of Arbenz-like exercise just to work on making sure the tonguing is not a problem. But I really want to just work towards getting my best sound on these two very simple things, long tones and slow lip slurs. And then if I want to work beyond that, I need to make sure that those things are as good as they're going to get today. It'll only take you about 2 or 3 days to get back in full strength, full shape, if you do it this way. If you rush it, then you'll feel like something's missing, like you came back from break without something that you worked on last semester that you felt like would never go away. And that's because, well, yeah, these habits are really not habits unless you've done them for many years. And even then, they're still pretty transient. And so you have to build them back. And your routine is what's really good for that. So really, you're working your way up to whatever routine you want to do. That could be Chickwitz flow studies, that could be the stamp routine, it could be anything, but make sure you're doing simpler versions of that. And I suggest long tones, even if you're used to doing like a mouthpiece buzzing routine or something other, something that's not really, let's say, long tones focused right away, I would still do long tones for a couple of days first, just so that you know you're making good sounds on the trumpet, and then go back to the routine that you feel like helps you be strong in the ways you need to be and flexible and whatever else. Okay? So hopefully nobody took any time off, but if you did, I hope this video helped. I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks a lot.